Hi Foundation students. I just wanted to show you a few problems and how to work them out on your calculator. So just wanted to make sure that you know how to put these things in your calculator. So these square roots. So first one we're going to look at is the square root of 81. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the second button and that blue, you've got that blue square root sign. Oh gosh, I need to have my thing on, sorry. Second square root, and then you're just gonna hit 81, and that's gonna be 9. So I just wanted to show you that square root button is second, and then the x squared. This will work on your phone. There is a square root button on your phone, so it will work on your phone. However, I have tried putting this next one in my phone and it does not work. So I wanted to show you this. And if you don't have, hopefully you all have a calculator that you're using, but if not, you can still figure this out. So let's go ahead and put it in our calculator. I've got a negative, so I put the negative sign, second square root of 81, and you're going to get a negative 9. Now, if you are having to use your phone, again, it's not going to do it, but just notice you're going to take the square root of 81 and then you're going to make it negative after the fact. So your answer would be a negative 9. Now this next one, notice you have a negative inside the, I'm sorry, my phone's doing something weird. Hold on. Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, the battery. All right, I think I can make it. All right, so this next one, you might be able to look at this and know the answer. Can we take the square root of a negative number? Is there any way that two numbers, the same number, can be multiplied together and make a negative? Well, you may already know the answer, but let's just check it out. If I put a square root of a negative 81, I'm going to get an error message. So this is a no solution. You can't take, oh, sorry, I hit that. You can't take the square root of a negative number. So anytime you have a negative on the inside of the square root, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a positive is a positive. So you can never have two numbers that multiply together to make a negative number. Okay, so I wanted to show you on your calculator how to do the cubed root. So on this one, you've got the cubed root of 8. So you're going to hit the math button, math, and then you go down to number 4. You can either scroll down to number 4 and hit enter, or you can just put in the number 4. I'll show you that. You can just put math and then hit number 4, and you're going to get cubed root, and you're just going to put in 8. Enter, and you will get 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So that's correct. All right, so the next one is a fifth root. So notice if you hit the math on this one, you've got, let me move this down, you've got a cubed root, but you do not have fourth, fifth, anything higher than 3 there. So what you're going to use is you're going to use this x root. So you're going to scroll down and you're going to hit number 5, or hit just enter there. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to first put your number inside. So you're going to put a negative 32, and then you're going to hit your back arrow. You're going to go back, and you're going to hit and make that number 5. And then I think you can go ahead and hit enter, but just in case, I like to go on over, and I'm going to have a negative 2 for that. So just put in your math, and then you're going to have to do your, again, number 5, negative 32, and then you got to go back in and put the power. You got negative 2. Oop, I hit that twice. All right, so negative 2. All right, next one, I've got 3 to the 4th power to the 4th root. And you might be able to figure this out, but let's go ahead and put this in if we wanted to. So if I wanted to put in math, and I'm going to hit number 5, and I want to put 3 to the 4th power, and then I'll go back and make it to the 4th root. Notice I'm going to get 3. Anytime you take something to the 4th power and then you take that same root of it, these two are going to undo each other. So you can always put that in your calculator, but if you see that you have the same power and the same root, they're going to undo each other. You're just going to have your base. You're going to have your answer of 3. All right, this last one, I'm sorry, I'm getting some notifications on my phone. Okay, so this last one here, I've got y to the 6th power to the 6th root. So I just want to show you a little bit about what we do when we have a variable here. Let's just say that y is 2, and we're going to take 2 to the 6th power. Okay. Is there any way, if I take a positive number and multiply it by itself 6 times, is there any way I can get a negative number? No, because I'm multiplying it by a positive number by itself. It can't be negative. Okay, anytime you multiply two positives, you're always going to get a positive, right? Well, let's look at the same thing with a negative. Let's say I took negative 2 and multiplied by itself 6 times. Okay, well, and you can put this in your calculator. I mean, you know how a negative times a negative is a positive, so that'd make a positive 4, then a negative 8, a positive. But because there's an even number of negatives, is there any way this could be negative? No, this can't be negative either, because there's an even number of negatives, and the negatives are going to all cancel each other out. So your answer will be positive. Now, if there's an odd, let's say if there was negative 2 to the 5th power. There's an odd number of negatives. That would be positive, negative, positive. You can have a negative there. So this really only applies, what we're going to have to do here, this only really applies when we have a negative, a even power. It's an even power, okay? Because both positive and negative 2 work, they're going to get the same answer. You got a positive 32, right? So you have to account for both of those numbers working. And again, this could be 4 or 8 or whatever number, but because both positive and negative numbers work, I have to put my answer in an absolute value. Because 2 and negative 2 worked here, any number for y, the positive and the negative number will work. And so anytime you see this and you have a positive exponent, you have to put your y, your answer, in absolute values when it is an even. Now, if it's an odd, if you had an odd, you don't have to do it, because it's just going to be y. Because negative 2 to the 5th power, like you can have a negative. So this would just be y. But here with the even exponent, you have to account for both of them being negative. I mean, for the positive and negative both working. Okay, I'm going to move on to lesson 10.2, and I think there's only a couple of things I need to show you here. So for lesson 10.2, what we've got here is 64 to the 1/3 power. And mainly, I just want to show you how to put these in your calculator. Okay, so for 64 to the 1/3 power, you're just going to put 64, and you're going to put the power button, and you're going to put 1 divided by 3. Pretty basic. So that's going to be 4. Now, she did talk about, this is also like, to the 1/3 power is also the cubed root. This is the same thing as the cubed root of 64. So you could, if you wanted to, use the math and go down to 4. Cubed root of 64 is 4, and you're going to get the same answer there. But if you wanted to just put in what you see, just use your arrow and put 1 divided by 3, and that's going to work. Now, this last one here, I think there's one like this, where you have a fraction, and you want to take 16/9 to the 1/2 power. So what you could do second square root 16 over 9. Yeah, it's going to, and I think you can make that. Let me just see this real quick. Yeah, you can put in the square, because you know that to the 1/2 power is the same thing as the square root. So you can put math, oh wait, sorry. you can put in the square root, and you can put 16 divided by 9. You're going to get a decimal, but notice this, you're always wants it to, your MyLabs Plus always wants it to be a fraction. So you're just going to hit math, fraction, enter, and you're going to get 4/3. So you can take the square root, or if you just want to put it in as you see it, you do 16 over 9 to the 1/2. What I want to show you is if you just did this, 16/9 to the 1/2 power, 1 divided by 2, that's not going to be right, because that's going to take only 9 to, it's only going to take the square root of 9. It's not going to take the whole thing to the 1/2 power. So if you want to put this in your calculator just as it is and work it out, you have to include the parentheses. If you have parentheses in your problem, you have to put them in your calculator, because this is only taking the square root of 9. It's not taking the square root of both of them. So if you want to include both of them, you have to put in parentheses, 16 divided by 9, close parentheses, and then you're going to take that to the 1 divided by 2. And you'll get 1.333, and then you're going to hit math, fraction, and it's going to be 4/3. Okay. And on this one, you might have, again, you can do the square root, and you might go, well, I know the square root of 16 is 4 and the square root of 9 is 3. I mean, it's pretty, you could really work these out without a calculator, but I just wanted to show you how to put that in your calculator. All right, I think that's all of the things that I thought you might want to know how to do. Let me know if you have any questions.